Welcome to the CouchScouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Hello and welcome to episode 150 of the CouchScouts Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jackson. With me, as always, I have my co-host, Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
Man, I am hanging in there on campus. This has just been a busy summer for me, man. It feels like everything has been happening all at once, and I have got such a bad migraine. I was driving home today. I told you earlier, I was driving home because my head hurt so bad from work. And I was going like 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. And apparently that wasn't fast enough for the guy that was driving behind me. So he like sped around me and gave me a thumbs down as he was driving by me, which feels like the most disrespectful way to flip somebody off.
He just recognized you and he's like, boo, Travis Hunter, truther.
Feels like the most disrespectful way to pass somebody. That's all I'm going to say. How are you doing, man?
I am also battling some kind of sickness. And then on top of that, we have tornado watch. We got a line of storms that is heading our way. So well, behind the curtains, we're recording a little bit early tonight to hopefully try and beat these storms. So if I just randomly cut off during this episode, hopefully a tornado didn't get me. We'll see. To be determined.
If you randomly cut off here, I'm going to need like a thumbs up or thumbs down, like as soon as you like get signal back or on your phone or something, just you didn't die. That would be great. We need Cooper back in the worst way. He's obviously not here again this week. Cooper, we need you back because we are breaking down. We're two old men breaking down. On tonight's episode, and by the way, I don't want to skip over. This is episode 150, Rupert. Feels crazy. But on tonight's episode, we are continuing a little bit of a series that we started last week. So if you don't remember or didn't listen last week we covered buys that or players we're looking to buy heading into the upcoming NFL season. If you are contending, so guys that you're looking to go out and grab so that you can win that championship. If you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it right now. That'll kind of set the precedence and the stage for what we're doing tonight. But on tonight, we're focusing more on rebuilder buys. So if you're a contender build, go listen to last week's show. But if you are like looking at your roster and thinking, I don't really have a shot this year, we've got some players that you might be interested in buying. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it to you first, Rupert, because we're talking about a guy that we talked about last week. So I'm interested to talk about this one because I would agree with you. I think he's both a contender buy and a rebuilder buy. He's kind of just a buy all around. So who's your first guy?
Absolutely. It feels a little bit like a cheat. I'm going Jonathan Brooks again. If you're in a rebuild, he's still young, even though, he's technically not a rookie, but I'm kind of treating it as almost like a red shirt, like freshman season, just due to the injuries. Really hoping that the injury bug is behind him. I appreciate that they let him take off all of his second year to really rehab and focus on getting his strength and everything back. Hopefully learning lessons from maybe they rushed him back his rookie year and that helped cause a re-tear there in his knee. But he has just been the story of training camp. He's looking dominant. We talked about it last week, how everyone's gushing about his acceleration, how he can put his foot in the ground and get north-south so quickly, weaving between gaps in the line. And then on top of that, he's really showing out in the receiving game. Like he's made some like one-handed catches and down the field on wheel routes. Like he's been doing it all in training camp and kind of showing us the player that he was coming out. I think he's back to full strength. And he's still attainable now. I got a feeling that by the end of the year, he's going to be a guy that's going to be very hard to acquire.
I think the most interesting thing that I learned last week, we did the bonus show. So if you're not a Couch Scouts member, we'd love for you to subscribe and go listen to that bonus show because we talked a little bit about Jonathan Brooks there too. I was interested or intrigued to hear about the consensus value of him in the community. because he was a guy coming into last week that I thought a lot of people kind of had left for dead. But according to Keep Trade Cut, he's right around there with guys like DJ Moore, Josh Downs, a 201 draft pick. So again, not expensive, but I wouldn't say he's as cheap as maybe I thought he was. But I would also agree with you. I think the price could increase even more this season, and he is still young. Like, I know that 2 ACL tears are not good. That's not something you want to see, but at the same time, like, all reports are just wheels up for Jonathan Brooks right now. So love that call out for sure. The first one that I have is a rookie this year. I know we talked about Jonathan Brooks is going into his first season as playing, but this guy is first season altogether, and that's Eli Stowers, tight end out of Philly, drafted to the Eagles. Look, I've seen the reports, and I think some of the reports even have Eli Stowers talking about how he has just looked not to the level that he needed to look in training camp right now. Eli Stowers is still a buy for me if you're a rebuilder on the tendency or the condition that I think that you wait and you buy him even midseason. There was a question mark coming into this year. You know, is Dallas Goedert going to play at all? Is he going to get re-signed? You know, they drafted Eli Stowers, and there was some talk about maybe does Eli Stowers get some run in the first season? And I think he still gets a little bit of run this season, but I think all reports are kind of pointing to the fact that he may get a few snaps, but it's still going to be the Dallas Goedert show. And then they still have a tight end 3 on the roster that is more of a blocking tight end. So I don't think you're going to see Eli Stowers as much this year. That's why I'm saying wait until halfway through the year, maybe towards the end of the year, to buy Eli Stowers. He's a young tight end. He's an athletic tight end. He was one of the best athletes coming into the draft. Tested really well. We went back and rewatched this film when we were scouting him and really liked him more than we did on the initial watch. Philly loves to use their tight ends, Rupert. You've had Zach Ertz there. You had Dallas Goedert that's had success. I think Eli Stowers is another guy that's going to have some really nice success on that team. I don't think it's going to be this year, and I think that's why he's the perfect rebuilder buy, because halfway through the season, you can get a discount on him, and I think once he does take that job away from Dallas Goedert, you're going to get really good production for not much value right now or not much price right now.
Yeah, for this exercise, I just kind of steered away from rookies just because in my mind, I'm like, they're going to be hard to buy. But I think this is a perfect call out, right? He was going at the end of the first round, typically top of the second. So typically he's been going to teams where they are contenders, right? So if he's on a contending roster and we get to like midseason, he's not contributing, that's going to be a time where you can go approach that contender. Hey, I have a piece that's going to help you contend. Eli Stowers is doing nothing for your championship run this year, and then try and be able to buy him on a bit of a discount. I can totally see that being a scenario that we could see by midseason. So really like this call out for that particular reason.
Yeah, I totally understand wanting to avoid rookies. I actually picked 2 rookies for this show, and I'll explain the other one when we get to that too. But I think both of these rookies that I picked have some extreme circumstances that make them good rebuilder buys right now. So yeah, I appreciate that. Who is your second rebuilder buy?
I went with Rome Odunze. I still believe in the talent that we scouted from him a couple of years ago. Granted, it's hard to extrapolate like early season success throughout the rest of the season. I think we can in his scenario with the foot injury. Maybe not to a T, but it's a good indicator, I think, of the player that he is. His 17-game pace, if you extrapolate out his first 4 games where he was healthy, is 148 targets, 85 receptions, 1,258 yards, and 21 touchdowns. And I think the touchdowns here is the number I'm really focusing on, because that's where he excelled in college. He was just a touchdown machine. He finds ways to get open in those tight, condensed spaces, and he's just such a monster at the catch point. And I think that's where he can really have his role separate from Luther Burden, right? I think he's going to be more the touchdown guy, the red zone guy for that team. Like, even if Luther Burden lives up to the lofty expectations that we have for him, barring his injury that he experienced at camp this week, I think Rome's going to be that guy that can be a double-digit touchdown guy for most of his career. And I think people are kind of looking down on him with the injury, the Luther Burden hype, the Colson Loveland hype. So I think he's more attainable than the player that I think he can be.
Yeah, he's an interesting one because right now, price-wise, he's listed, according to Dynasty Data Lab, at wide receiver 22, which, those first 6 or so weeks of the season, like he was performing as a wide receiver 1. Now, injuries happened. He kind of took a step back in the later half of the season, and I think that's why he slipped down that far. This is Ben Johnson's second year in running the system. This is Caleb Williams' second year in the Ben Johnson system. I really think things are going to start to click this year. You've gotten rid of DJ Moore. It's the Rome Odunze and Luther Burden show. And for as much as I love Luther Burden, and I do think he's going to do well this season, look, no one was a bigger Luther Burden fan last year. I was drafting him everywhere. I loved Luther Burden. I still think it's Rome Odunze's show. I think he just complements what Caleb Williams does a little better. So again, fantastic call out there. Because I think for the price, wide receiver 22, I think you're going to get at least, the very least, high end wide receiver 2 numbers for him, not back end wide receiver 2. So love that call out there. We're going to take a quick break real quick. We got definitely some more we're going to talk about here, but I want to tell you guys all the things going on at CouchScouts.com. So if you are not a member of CouchScouts.com, if you bundle annually, you can get that for a really good price for less than a cup of coffee per month when you purchase annually, and you get just so many good perks for being a Couch Scouts member. We've got a bonus podcast that we record every week. It'll record right after this, and we're starting a divisional preview series. So if you're looking at, okay, which players in the NFL are going to be the ones that win me championships, which division should I be targeting, which team should I be watching, we're going to break all that down on the bonus podcast the next few shows. And we have a very special milestone coming up on our bonus podcast. Episode 100 is coming up. And there may or may not be a special giveaway for that podcast. So there's never been a better time to be a Couch Scouts member. We've also got our rookie guide that is still available if you become a member. Rupert, I, for one, still have one more rookie drafting in 2 days. So drafting a little late, but I still get to use that rookie guide a little bit.
I'm jealous. I finished my last one. It was quite bittersweet.
This is a fun rookie draft because I got pick 3, so I get to look at all those wide receivers and pick the one I like. Right, so excited about that one. So you can get the rookie guide for that. Like I said, bonus podcast. We've got an all 22 film room that you can go and scout some of these guys for next year. Lots of value. As a Couch Scouts member, we'd love for you to go to CouchScouts.com, subscribe for that. All right, we're going to continue our series here, our podcast here. And the next guy I'm going to talk about, I mentioned it earlier that I picked 2 rookies. My second rookie I picked, Chris Bell, for the Miami Dolphins. And again, I mentioned, it's hard picking rookies because it's hard to get, good value on them. But Chris Bell is another one of those guys that I think you can get for cheaper then you're going to be able, to get him maybe next year. Chris Bell right now is still dealing with that injury. He kind of took a step back at training camp and re-aggravated that injury. And that's why I think you can get him for a relatively low price right now. People are still kind of worried. What does that injury look like? Is he going to recover? All that kind of things is causing concerns. It's causing him to dip down a little bit. So right now he is going in drafts as wide receiver 58, which for his value, like I think wide receiver 58 is insane to me. He's easily the best wide receiver on that roster when he's healthy. I want to read some of the things the GM has said about Chris Bell over the last few days. Simply built differently. Good Lord made him differently than he made most others, and that helps with his recovery. Called him a freak athlete. All really good words coming from the guy that drafted Chris Bell. When you're looking at him, I think he was a phenomenal asset that would have been a first-round pick in rookie drafts were it not the injury. There's a lot of things that Chris Bell does really, really well. And he's on a team that, quite frankly, is just devoid of any sort of wide receiver talent. I mean, you've got Chris Bell, and then you've got Malik Washington and Jalen Tolbert. Not your premier wide receivers on that team. And you're telling me I can go into a draft right now, I can approach a team, and the value for Chris Bell right now is wide receiver 58. As potentially, when healthy, the team's wide receiver 1 on his roster. That is not going to be his value next year. He is going to rise, and he might be one of the safer picks right now to go out and trade for, because you're certainly not going to lose value. And I think, if anything, trading for him today, you're going to be able to flip that next year for way more than you could ever pay for it today. Injury is causing his price to drop, and that's why he's a buy for me. He's still young, and he's a rebuilder buy.
Yeah, I really like this call out too, given that circumstance. And because of the injury, right, like his value is insulated. Like, it's not going, like, we've known about the injury before. Granted, he's had the setback, but like, his value already had that injury built in. So it's only going to go up from here. It's, it's going to take 2-3 seasons for that to really go down. So I really like this call out as well. I totally agree. I think he's the most talented wide receiver on that roster.
Yeah, if he was healthy right now, like, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. Like, he would not be a buy, but that the injury is making him a buy. So loved him when I was looking at, especially those value. I mean, wide receiver 58 is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Who is your next buy? And we've talked about this guy a little bit, but we're going to keep beating the horse for him.
Yeah, I'll go with Marvin Harrison Jr. And during his first 10 weeks of the year, he had, some games where he was in and out of the lineup. He was still on pace for almost 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. During that stretch, like 62% of his targets, only 39 were deemed catchable. So it's 63%. The not great quarterback play that he was seeing. And on the bright side of that, like, he was getting 20% target share. McBride had him beat there of 28, which I can see that continuing as well. And Michael Wilson had 12.5%. And there are some rough clips coming out of training camp comparing him and Michael Wilson back to back, where Harrison would have drop after drop after drop. And it seems that after that has come out, he's just been on a tear, highlight after highlight in training camp. So, I mean, I still believe in talent. Like, we didn't see drops as a problem at all on his college tape. So I don't think that's a thing that's going to continue. Still believe in the talent. It's going to win out. So I think it's still quite attainable at his price, similar to Rome Odunze, whereas I believe his talent far exceeds his current value.
I'll start off by saying I do agree that he's a buy right now. The problem is, we talked about Chris Bell, where his value is insulated. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s value is probably the least insulated value for a player right now in Dynasty. If he does well, then everybody in the community is going to be like, oh, he finally did what we said he was going to do. Rupert, if he has another season like he has the last 2 seasons, like, his value is going to tank dramatically. I've said this before. I love the player coming out of college. I thought he was phenomenal. He scares me a lot. And I'm just not sure that I'm willing to take that risk. I know that he probably will do fine this season. And if I don't have him on a roster, like, he's one of those guys that I'm like, if he finally breaks out, then I guess I just missed it. He just scares me so much. But I also agree that, like, if he does come in and do what he's supposed to do, like, his value is going to rise far higher than it is right now. And that's what you're looking for in rebuilder buys, right? You're looking for young guys who could see their value increase after this season. And I think Marvin Harrison is a good example of that. He's young. He's a phenomenal player. Or we thought he was a phenomenal player coming into the NFL. His value could rise, right? I think what makes this interesting is the quarterback situation a little bit. Like, yeah, I know that Jacoby Brissett is the starter right now. I don't know if you've seen some Carson Beck clips coming out of training camp, But Carson Beck is looking pretty good. And he was one of those guys that we talked about a couple months ago was like, hey, like if you're in the third round of rookie drafts, like you might as well take a shot at him, right?
He's got me thinking, is he this year's Tower Shuck?
He was one of those guys that we were like, I mean, all offseason, we were like, I mean, we don't necessarily love the player, but I mean, in the third round of your rookie draft, you're throwing darts anyway. And he's one of those guys that looks like he might be a dart throw that ends up paying off. So I'm interested to see if halfway through the season or so, Carson Beck takes that job. That's one of the things that I'm watching personally.
Absolutely. And I totally expect him to be honest.
He certainly looks good enough. My last player that I'm talking about, I feel like I've been talking a lot over the last few weeks about this Jacksonville Jaguars roster. Everything that I see, Rupert, is just praising how well the Jaguars look in training camp right now. And I think one of the hardest parts in the NFL offseason is distinguishing what's smoke and what's actually really good talk. And I don't think this is just smoke. Like I saw the Jacksonville Jaguars take a really big step up in the latter half of the season last year. And that's carried over, it seems like, into training camp. And right now, if you're looking at contender or rebuilder buys, I know I mentioned a contender buy last week being Parker Washington. And I still think he's a contender buy right now. I think a good rebuilder buy, honestly, is Brian Thomas Jr. I kind of went back and forth on both of these guys, but I wanted to pick somebody different than I did last year. Brian Thomas Jr. is still young. This is his third year into the league. He kind of took a pretty big dip last year. He just wasn't the player that he was his rookie season, and his value dropped a little bit. He went from being, a second, third round startup pick in your drafts. And now he's going at wide receiver 26, according to Dynasty Data Labs. Again, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 26. With rebuilder buys, you're looking at guys that are young, guys that you can get for cheap, who could see their value increase after this season. Brian Thomas Jr. is another one of those fantastic guys who can see their value increase after the season. If he finds that connection that he had in the first year with Trevor Lawrence, and all reports coming out of training camp are that Brian Thomas Jr. looks phenomenal. I mean, if he comes in and looks half as good as everybody says he's going to look, he might find himself sliding right back into that second, third round startup value. And that's another guy you can get for cheap right now that can be not so cheap later. Brian Thomas Jr. was not a great route runner coming out of college. He was limited in that aspect. And he took a really big step forward his rookie season. He had some drops issues. He had some frustrating tendencies last year. I'm interested to see if he's gotten those fixed. And if he has, I think the sky's the limit for Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, I admittedly, I'm fully buying into he was really injured last year and playing through it and was never right. And that contributed to his significant sophomore slump. And that's why I'm buying the offseason hype, how amazing he looks out of camp. He looks like the most dominant athlete on the field. Really love this call out. And honestly, you can include anyone that, Parker Washington, Travis Hunter are also rebuilder buys, in my opinion. They're all three very talented. I know they can't keep all three together, right? There's just no way that they can with the salary cap situation. We're not the MLB where you can be the Dodgers, just keep on acquiring all the best players. I think one of those guys is going to find their way onto a different team and be hopefully a feature piece. So I think any three of those guys could be rebuilder buys.
I know we mentioned it last year too, or last week too, but Trevor Lawrence contender buy too.
Yeah.
If all of these guys are buys for rebuilder, then the quarterback's value is increasing. So
absolutely.
I really want to make sure we hit on that again this week because
Yeah.
I still firmly believe that. All right. You said you had one more that you wanted to mention. Yeah. So
I will bring us home with probably my favorite call out. Jalen Coker. He came in 2 years ago. The Panthers had traded up to draft because they were, again, the first round. they got Jalen Coker undrafted. Immediately takes his job almost. Just really consistent, big-bodied wide receiver, not the most athletic, but plenty athletic enough. And just really understands the wide receiver position. Last year when he was healthy, he was the wide receiver 2 on the team, and the whole offense just operated differently when he was healthy. From week 13 on, his 17-game pace was 830 yards, 10 touchdowns. But, he was coming back from injury as well to kind of start that run there. But I think the player that you saw against the Rams in the playoffs is the kind of player that Jalen Coker is. And the kind of icing on the cake for me is reception perception. Came out with his profile today, and shocker, pretty much his entire route tree is green. Only thing that's red is corner routes and comebacks, and then his out routes are yellow. Everything else is green. Like dominator on slant routes, able to use his hands. He has really long arms, uses them well to shed off defenders. His curl routes, phenomenal. His digs and post routes, he really accelerates that as well. And especially with Chris Brazell going out for the year with injury, it's hands down Jalen Coker's job as wide receiver 2. So as long as he's healthy, I think he's a really great rebuilder buy. On a keep trade cut, he's wide receiver 53. So I think he's worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, I think what makes him really interesting is he doesn't just run great routes. Like, he pairs that with really phenomenal ball skills, right? Big target, quarterback's best friend over the middle of the field. He can do the middle of the field stuff. He can do the deep stuff. And yes, I mean, with Brazel going down again, I mean, again, it's Tedderone McMillan, it's Jalen Coker. And we talked about it last week. Bryce Young continues to take steps forward. So Jalen Coker, I think, for his price tag, we're giving you a lot of guys that are like the wide receiver 30 to wide receiver 60 range. You can go in there and get, and their value is going to increase this year. So yeah, definitely love that call out on Jalen Coker. Well, that about does us for tonight with our rebuilder buys. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope that was helpful for y'all. If you have some rosters that don't look that great this season, go and acquire some of these guys. We talked about you can get them pretty cheaply. So go out, get them cheap, and then watch their value rise after the season. We appreciate you guys joining us. If you're not in on the Discord, there's going to be a free Discord. We just want to get to know the people that listen to the show. We'll make sure that that's included in the description of this podcast, wherever you listen to it. It'll be on there. Click that, join us. Chime in, say hi to us. Want to know that you guys are listening. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. Helps people find the show. We'd really appreciate it if you guys would do that. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We enjoyed doing this little fun 2-part series. I personally found it fun. So we're excited to be back with you guys again next week. Hope you guys have a good week.